Good morning, everyone. It is 10:17 a.m. We have a quorum of the board, so the State Board of Education special meeting of November 1st, 2018 is called to order. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda in the order of priority. Are there any items board members would like to add or delete from the agenda?
Do you take attendance?
Or should we take attendance?
We're gonna, when we flip the page, we're going to do introductions.
I'll move to approve. The agenda is presented.
Okay. We have a motion to approve, seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Point of information, on this special meeting, we actually are constrained as to what we can do with the agenda.
That is correct.
So just so so the public understands.
That's correct.
As well as board members.
That's correct.
Okay.
Guidance from the AG's office is that we cannot add or delete items from the agenda.
On a special
Special
meeting.
meeting.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay? So the motion carries. Moving on to introduction of State Board of Education members and guests. Marilyn, would you please introduce the members of the State Board of Education?
Yes, thank you. I'm Marilyn Schneider. I'm the State Board Executive, and I'll go around the table and introduce people. To my left is Sheila Alice. She's the Interim State Superintendent. She serves as Chair of the Board. And Dr. Richard Ziley is one of the co-presidents of the board. He's from Dearborn. And next to him is the other co-president of the board, Dr. Sandra Albrecht, and she's from Rochester Hills. The secretary of the board is Michelle Fecto. She's from Detroit. Nikki Snyder is a board member, and she's from Dexter. And across the table, I'll come back to Jared and Chelsea. Across the table, board member Eileen Weiser. She's from Ann Arbor. Board member Lupe Ramos Montini. She's from Grand Rapids. Pamela Pugh will be here in 5 minutes. She's from Saginaw. The board's treasurer is Mr. Tom McMillan, and he is from Oakland Township. And our guests who are on the agenda are staff from the Michigan Department of Technology, Management, and Budget, Jared Ambrosier, and Chelsea Lugabell.
Thank you. And would members of the audience please introduce themselves, starting with Marty?
Hi, I'm Marty Ackley, the Director of Public and Governmental Affairs here at the Department of Education.
Okay, into the back.
Good morning, I'm Kevin Lavery. I'm the education reporter with WKAR Public Radio at MSU.
Sorry, from where? Okay, thank you.
I'll go on Deputy Superintendent for Finance and Operations.
Okay, thank you, everyone, and once again, good morning. If any of the members of the audience plan to offer public comment at today's meeting, please complete a form and please get it to Marilyn. Forms are available on the table outside of the boardroom, and they must be submitted prior to the beginning of the portion of the meeting devoted to public comment, which is scheduled to occur immediately following today's discussion item. Moving on to discussion item A, today's agenda item is discussion action regarding search for Superintendent of Public Instruction, also known as the State Superintendent. It's to review of proposals for professional recruitment services. The State Board of Education and the Michigan Department of Education staff have been working with the Department of Technology, Management, and Budget to issue a request for proposals for professional recruitment services to assist in the recruitment of the Superintendent of Public Instruction, also known as the State Superintendent. We would like to welcome Jared Ambrosier and Chelsea Lugabell from the Michigan Department of Technology, Management, and Budget. And Jared and Chelsea will lead this portion of the agenda.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chelsea. We will be, at first, let's have some discussion about what you guys thought about the proposals.
Do you have any questions that you want to ask for us or each other?
About the process, or
I was curious to see whether there were applicants who didn't qualify for submission to us.
these are the only 4 that actually submitted through our procurement system.
Yes.
So
Tom?
this is a standard procedure that
not just the board, but any MDE or any state of Michigan?
Any state of Michigan procurement has to go through a competitive solicitation. Anything $10,000 or higher has to actually be posted publicly for any bidders to present.
Like,
and then-
how is the point system derived? Is that objective or is it very objective? Like, it's always 8 points, 5 points, 4 points, or?
Nope, that was decided based on review of the RFP, the request for proposal.
In conjunction with MDE.
Yeah.
So we met with MDE staff and kind of decided on what the RFP would look like, how we wanted to score, how things would be evaluated. Typically, actually, when we evaluate is not in a public setting. We would evaluate in a group setting, kind of in a closed-door group setting, and discuss the proposals and come to a consensus scoring. But due to the State Board of Education being an open meeting, we kind of changed how we're doing the evaluation with individual scoring and coming up with an average score and moving forward with consensus voted bidder.
But as I understand it, though, we're just doing this in order to get the amount that this doesn't determine who's going to be selected.
Correct, yep, it's not high score and it's not low bid.
Lowest bid.
It's a best value award, which you folks are determining what the best value to MDE in the state is.
We want to make sure that with each bidder passes that in a sense of, in this RFP, we made it so that the average score of 20 or higher, we would distribute pricing and actually look at that. We do that with all proposals or all requests for proposals, review them to make sure that they are passing prior to opening pricing so that we can make sure they can provide the services.
Other questions?
All of the vendors come with the 2-year guarantee, is that correct?
What is,
I think I saw somewhere that if the search isn't successful with somebody choosing to stay.
I believe that was only one of the vendors provided the actual guarantee. That wasn't a requirement in our solicitation, so that was the only one that I saw that actually had the guarantee.
Which one was that?
That was McPherson.
Okay.
Other questions prior to, what will happen is we'll all start collecting the score. We'll go from one bidder, what your scores are for each section. I'm tallying them here on my computer so that it'll give us an average and a total. Once we get through all of them, we'll see who has 20 points or higher, and then I'll distribute pricing for the ones that did get 20 points or higher, and then we'll discuss that in a vote.
May I
Sure.
raise I found in doing this that it's sort of like points in watching wrestling. You know, the guy that gets the most points suddenly in the last round is pinned by the opponent, and so I'm just saying that the matchup of points and my overall impression always seem to coalesce. And I don't know, you have any thoughts or comments, or maybe there's studies on this phenomenon, or how going by a set of points, because sometimes points don't have criteria like this guarantee. If we want to, if you're impressed by that guarantee, you have to fit it under one of the boxes and confine it to a given point.
And that's something that we can have a discussion after we do the points, pricing's distributed. You can have like a bit of we can all have some discussion about your best value reasoning as to why you would choose a certain vendor over another. That's why we choose best value versus low bid, because there may be some perks for selecting.
So when you're evaluating with scoring, you're scoring against the direct requirements of the RFP. The RFP stated for this, and what was their response to this. They may have met the criteria, so you gave them full points, but one of the bidders may have went above and beyond, and instead of just meeting, they far and exceeded. That would be a best value consideration. Again, best value is always a business area decision. You guys are the business owners in this case. We can make recommendations or give advice, but typically the business area is the one that says, this is what we value, and this is how we want to make our selection. And we just make sure that it's done in a fair and open, transparent manner.
I apologize. I was thinking you were just taking questions about the point system, but also are you, questions about the final selection as well? Can we ask those as well? So after we figure out who's over 20, then you give us the pricing, and then we have a general discussion about value. And then what is it, 5 votes? I mean, you're gonna take a vote? And then you'd knock off, if nobody gets 5, do you knock off the bottom one and that kind of thing?
This will be the first time that we've done one with a voting, so
Okay.
we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I would imagine we would want a consensus of the board. So yeah, with 8 of you, 5.
If there was 3, and, one of them, you might knock the bottom one off and go to 2.
Sure.
See,
It just
depending
depends on how it
Right.
goes,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
We don't really have a strategy for that yet.
Okay.
Other questions? All right,
Okay. I'll,
back to Chelsea and Jared.
so, I'm gonna start with, who's on my spread?
Before
Yes.
she continues,
Yes, Lupe.
I would like to know how we're going to be asking the questions. Do we just blare out the questions, or do we go through you and you recognize us and we ask the question?
Thank you. We'll do it as we typically do at other board meetings. You'll acknowledge to me, I'll call on board members to then direct the questions to Jared and Chelsea.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go with each bidder. I'll start with McPherson and Jacobson. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, McPherson and Jacobson. And then I'll go based on all of the evaluation criteria, how many points they were, and then I'll go around the room to get each person's points for that criteria, and we'll go through each criteria. And then after the votes are tallied, I've got a spreadsheet that's calculating it, and I'll tell if they passed 20 points and announce the score. So first with McPherson, we'll start with the evaluation criteria number 1. It's worth 8 points, and it's for the history, record of successful execution of the state superintendent, search processes or other significant educational leadership positions, their experience and responses provided in vendor questions. And I'll start with Eileen.
For that, and we're just doing McPherson, we're going all the way across the board.
We're gonna go do McPherson first. I'll go around and get all of that first evaluation criteria, and then I'll go to the second evaluation criteria and go around, if that's okay with everybody else.
Or would it be faster if we just did all of them?
Sure, that's fine too.
So why don't you read out all the evaluation criteria?
Yep, and number 2 is evidence of successful work and client satisfaction, supporting an education board and conducting similar searches. Number 3 is knowledge of Michigan and national, or number 2 was 5 points, excuse me. Number 3 is worth 4 points with, that's demonstrating the knowledge of Michigan and national education leadership networks to engage in soliciting candidates. Number 4 is worth 5 points. That's when the bidders demonstrated an ability to support all aspects of the scope of services as identified and requested in Schedule A Statement of Work. Finally, number 5 is worth 4 points for the contractor's understanding of the educational context, governance, structure, landscape, policy, political context, and environment of Michigan or similar states.
It's a maximum of how many points?
4. It's a maximum of 24 points, 26 points.
26.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. Threw you off there.
Yeah, 26. I've got it right in front of me. So I'll start with you, Eileen, with
Okay, I'm just going to go right down the
Sure.
line. 5, 1, 1,
Okay, I have 5, 2, 2, 3, 3.
please.
64343.
4-3. Okay.
44244.
65250.
I have 8, but with a qualifier, I was concerned about their failed Omaha search, especially when they're based in Omaha, and that they weren't asked to do another search. So I was a little hesitant, but I gave them an 8. 5040.
75454.
And you're back at me, okay. And I don't have mine up yet, so. Okay.
If you'd like, we could go to the next
Yes,
one. And
go
then
to the
come
next one, and then
Back,
I'll- okay.
and then we'll announce
Okay.
the score of
Okay, thank you.
McPherson after that. So, Ray and Associates, we'll start with you, Eileen.
8, 5, 4, 4, 3.
Okay.
Actually, I'm sorry, that bottom one should have been 4.
4?
Yep.
So 85444.
Right.
Okay.
And I have 85453.
Okay.
I'm almost the same as Lupe, 75453.
75453.
That was what I was.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Are you
yeah.
recording? Okay.
Yeah. I have 85444.
85444.
Yes.
Hold on Okay.
75454.
I have 85454.
64444.
And just go without me again.
Okay, so the next one's National Association of States Boards of Education.
3, 2, 4,
33443.
23332.
I had 64244.
02334.
22322.
52343.
'You ready? No? Okay. And the last bidder is Hazard Young and Associates, HYA.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Child thing. 3, 0, 1, 2, 1.
Okay.
34343.
75453.
5453.
Yes.
54444.
75454.
33222.
64444.
And are you?
I'm not ready yet. I gotta get the online.
Okay. So do we want to?
I'll just wait.
Let's just wait then. We'll just take a couple minutes.
I didn't bring my pen. I have it with me.
When we get selected, then they'll tell us?
No.
Maybe there's only gonna be one.
Could be, yeah. It could be real easy. This could be a quick meeting.
But it seems hard if you're just trying to start out. We did a process, I know I met with John, they invited people to come, and I think only John and I were the ones who showed up to.
It's different.
As I don't remember if we did this one.
I can use this one.
But then someone else had them.
Okay.
Oh, that's true. I think it was because we were talking about the criteria. Vetting, not just.
Well, that takes me back.
Yeah.
Fake now.
They had a ringtone, it sounded like a toilet flushing, and it would always go off in class. I was teaching. Phone. Many trick-or-treaters?
We get like 12. We buy candy for about 150. And we get 12.
Yeah, we had them lined up from our front door down the block.
My in-laws get over 700.
Oh, yeah, I did. I easily had, I spent $150 on candy, and I ran, all this time I ran out at 7:45.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm just there.
What do you do from that point on? Turn off the lights?
Yeah, yeah, I apologize to everybody.
Get your pennies.
Yeah, I know.
They used to do that.
I thought I'd have, because I spent a little bit more, I thought I'd make it to at least 8 o'clock, but I didn't. But they started at like 5 o'clock.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's
The little ones, come out. The little ones at least, and the the teenagers come out after dark. They get full-grown adults.
Okay, I think I have mine.
You want to start with McPherson with their first score then?
Yep. So 54554.
Okay, now Ray and Associates.
Is 65254.
Okay, National Association.
53343.
3343.
and
A.
64443.
So with the scores, McPherson, their average total is 18.5. Ray and Associates is 24.25.
Chelsea.
Chelsea.
I-
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
sorry to interrupt you.
You're fine.
On the last set of scores you were given for McPherson,
Yeah.
can we go over those again? Pam, I understood you to say 54554.
Did we capture that correct?
Oh, I'm sorry. 54454.
Okay.
Oh, I have that different than two.
Okay.
54454.
Yeah, because when we were comparing it with the grid, the middle score max was 4 points.
Okay, so then it's McPherson's score is 18.375. Ray and Associates is 24.25. National Association of State Boards of Education, 15.5. Hazard Young and Associates, 18.625.
So I understand the process is you have to get the 20 in order to look at the dollar amount. But I think it would still be worthwhile for us to know what the dollar amounts are for
Sure.
all of them.
Okay.
And so, and, Madam Chair?
Yes, of course. Tom.
And so, so this process has eliminated all, that's what I kind of find odd, is that a subjective measure of, somebody decided 85454 were the total points. It wasn't the board who decided those. So somebody other than the board has made the decision for us, basically, by assigning those points, and we didn't make the decision.
Okay.
Which I find a little weird. I don't even know if it's correct or allowed. Is it? That we're not making the decision?
MDE made the decision.
But are we held to that?
Yes, you were held to this score.
No, are we held to the 20-point cutoff?
Yes, that is what was the RFP was stated as. It is in our instructions to bidders that this is how you will be evaluated. And the only way you're allowed to go beyond that is if none of the bidders would have passed.
Dr. C?
Yeah, thank you. I understand that decisions have to be made, and sometimes some are, the board makes general decisions, and then people, and since there's another department involved, you have to make decisions on your part as well. And I don't have any quarrel with where we've arrived or what we're gonna, what this, but I think the question, I think it is worth exploring at what level certain decisions are made. And just for example, I would have weighted knowledge of Michigan a little more, and perhaps some of these others a little less. And it is good to know where the decisions are being made. So if I understand you correctly, then the particular point and division was made by someone in the MDE.
We made recommendations in MDE.
Is it appropriate to ask anybody who gave low scores if they want to reevaluate them right now? Can we do that, or is it not allowed?
Because we posted it on,
No, we would not be able to change the scoring criteria.
No, I mean
Individual
the
board members.
The board
can talk-
member scores.
Yeah,
If some decided
Let
they
me read
wanted
the
to have
instructions real
a
quick.
discussion and debate about,
I don't think.
in order to get
we
to the 20.
specify how we would go about awarding.
Because just to interject, sorry, can I?
Yes.
We, well, I'm not going to speak for anyone but myself, but I haven't had a conversation with anyone at this board table about what my thoughts are and how I came up with these numbers. And I think it would be interesting sometimes for us to know some people scored some things really high, some scored them really low. And a lot of times at this board, we have this conversation and sometimes we can change each other's mind.
Right.
So I think we should be able to have at least the ability to do that, rather than just say, well, this is the score and we're done.
And I'll also add is that there are people who are at this table who have more experience in this, because unfortunately we had to do this before some of us, just recently had to do this. And I wasn't on the board when that happened. Nikki, Tom we were not on the board, but other people have more experience in what it is that we're doing. So I would concur with what Cassandra has just mentioned.
So, and that's how our typical evaluation process works. Like I said, it's a consensus and there is no individual scoring. It's all done as discussion and the group decides on a score. We can, you are allowed to have discussion and change. If an individual wants to change their score, they can.
So I have 3 people who have asked to speak, Eileen, Lupe, and Nikki.
Oh, I have not.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Listening.
Eileen and Lupe.
So we also have a very interesting situation because we have a fiduciary responsibility in the state of Michigan, not to, see, how can I say this? We have to focus on getting the very best set of candidates with the best and deepest possible knowledge of the state of Michigan. That's what your ratings were all about just now. And everybody did them on their own scale. That, mine were lower than other people's because I just evaluated 600 kids for, the Presidential Scholars Commission, and we just did a search firm selection for Michigan Science Center less than a month ago, and went through these very same issues. The problem is that we do have a firm that has placed over and over again successfully state superintendents in other states, and has placements here at the next level down in Michigan, and placed our previous state superintendent, which is a totally compelling set of performance statistics that nobody else in this pool has. That's why we have one firm that's so much higher. That doesn't mean that we can't talk about the other ones, but nothing that the other firms presented begins to match that portfolio of successes and deep knowledge of Michigan. The intangible, which wasn't included, which for me is significant, is if you have that depth of knowledge for those searches and you are also deeply penetrated in other searches in this state, you also know all of the candidates who are the potential people for this job. When we did the Michigan Science Center search, one of the parallels was that they were thinking, well, we could hire someone who didn't have the right set of criteria, and we could maybe do the equivalent of hiring for the Science Center, which is a facility and services for children, somebody from the nonprofit world. The hassle with that is that you would never hire an electrical engineer for an aerospace engineering job, and you would never hire a litigator for a corporate position, because the talent, the training, the skill set, and the experience does not move into that job well. I've always been a proponent of bringing in people from the outside who have less experience in education, but more experience in change. We've not done that, the board, and I'm leaving the board, so that's not my discussion point. But if we don't move toward hiring someone who is so far head and shoulders above the other firms in their experience, it will be difficult to justify it publicly. And so, but by all means, I think we should look for it. It could be that these other firms had more experience but didn't express it clearly, or that there's other intangibles such as mine, which is there may be something parallel to the fact that one of these bidders knows the field so well that they could recruit almost anybody or keep on making phone calls until they could find the right people for us. And that would be my issue. And the other problem is that this bidding process is meant to make it so that we don't skew our results to select a firm that is not as appropriate as another firm that has stellar experience. That also is not something that we can do with our oath of office.
Thank you. And Lupe?
Eileen said exactly what my thoughts were, and that's why I selected the firm that I did. And to Pam's concern, I agree, we have to discuss if this is what the board wants, but I don't recall doing this the last time that we selected a superintendent. So this was new to me too.
I mean, I guess for me is that you all know what you did and what you didn't do, and then you know the firm that we had, and were there any things that you would have done differently is another piece to
They did a
the
real good job for
experience.
us last time.
Okay.
You know, the part that I was involved with, I wasn't involved with this part, but all the other parts, except at the very end, I didn't like the outcome, how we presented it to the total board, because they were excluded and the chair took command of the whole thing. But that part I did not like, and I hope that this doesn't occur this time. But I was very pleased with the part that they were involved with us.
Thank you, Lupe, and Nikki, I believe.
Yeah. This is just sort of an objective statement, hopefully, but I noticed McPherson had a pretty incredible history and record of successful placement, but is our third lowest. So I just don't know how, that's my only concern, is that of all the firms, our tool made it so that the firm that did present as the most experienced is almost the lowest. So it just, I could be, and I don't, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm seeing it differently.
Okay.
If you look, if I can just.
Michelle, and then I'll go
Sorry.
back to Eileen.
Yeah, so I think I gave them high marks for experience and success, but I gave them very low marks for knowledge of Michigan and, understanding our policies and, things like that, because I didn't see any. And I think that might have brought their score down, is that they had, but, yeah, that to me is what drove it down, is their lack of experience in Michigan. But I gave them high scores on everything else.
Back to Eileen and then to Tom, and then over to Cassandra.
So, in answering that question from Nikki, if you look at Ray and Associates' second page, it's this page, sorry, it's the cover letter.
Okay.
Should be right, the one right under the.
I kind of mixed
right
things
there.
around and tried to
So do I.
compare.
Okay. This is, this paragraph right here is the list of the superintendents, the state superintendents that they placed, and the ISD soups in Michigan. But the state superintendent list is Alabama, Hawaii, Ohio, Colorado, Florida, Mississippi, Rhode Island, West Virginia, and Wyoming, where they placed the soups. On page 7 of the McPherson proposal, part of this is being able to read the verbiage and understand.
The
what
way
they're
it was
saying.
presented for sure is different in each packet. Wow.
It's this grid, Nikki.
Oh, yes, I kept
What
it.
page is that, Eileen?
7.
The vendor question worksheet.
Yeah.
Okay.
You look at experience 1. It was they had a project, the Kansas State Department of Education, Commission of Education search consultant, and they said it gave us the opportunity to work with the State Board of Education. Okay, so the completed and the hire was made. It's not saying to me, it is the Commission of Education, so they've got that one. From there, it went to the Washington State School Directors Association, which would be an advocacy group for experience 2. And it was for the executive director, and it was a search consultant that gave us the opportunity to work with a statewide organization. Even the verbiage is substantially different than the list of 9 state soups. And that one was not a state soup search. So, and this one, I rated them really highly as working with nonprofits, because they have extensive experience in nonprofit searches, but it's not the same as the kind of depth that you look for in previous placements at this level in other states, and it's also not the depth. You go down, it's Louisiana School Board Association, which is not the same as the State Board of Education.
Yeah, I think for me, it could just be the presentation, because I was
It is
looking
hard.
embedded in the references, the vendor question
Exactly.
worksheet, and then also the placements, because each one of them did it a little bit.
Exactly. And that's the hard part of doing this. This is let's see, I was on the search committee for Mike, for Tom Watkins, Mike Flanagan, and Brian. And this is the fourth one I've done of these. So I'm not attacking your grids, but it is extremely hard. It's informational text, it's Excel sheets, and so then you have to translate that to somebody else's narrative. And if you don't know exactly what you're looking for, which is what have they done for another state that begins to compare with what they would do for us well? And you're looking for depth of placements over and over again, that they can walk into a state, analyze what is really needed. They have the connections to pull the candidates together, and they're able to produce success.
Okay, next is Tom, Cassandra, and then Dr. Z.
I thought Eileen, her first point earlier on was good about, making sure that we have a process and we follow it. I want to make sure we don't do anything that is not allowed or not by law or statute or by rule or something. So I just want to make sure that when you're in these other discussions, when you're making decisions, not a public meeting, does everybody know the amount of the contract, or is it still the same thing that after, over a
Pricing
threshold,
is
then the
sealed.
amount is?
Yep, 80%. So we did the same thing here. We
Okay,
did
so
80%.
I don't know that we should know the amount. I don't want to go, even if, unless but I do think it's healthy, because you said there's a discussion and a consensus. So if we wanted to discuss to raise a couple of these to above 20, somebody changes or a couple of people change it, I think that seems like it's with the, in light of the law or the spirit of the rules and
Yep.
law.
So we don't specify within the RFP on how we're going to evaluate. We say the evaluation criteria, but we don't state in what
Right.
format. And so we can, you guys can have a discussion, people can change.
Yeah, I do think, though, that if we do raise somebody, eventually it's probably going to be Raina. So based on what I'm hearing, but nonetheless, I'd like to at least attempt to go through the process. And it is true that some are harder graders. And so people may want to relook at that and think, maybe I, at least for discussion, should have increased a grade. But I also think that these are very objective, it seems to me, to some degree, these five. I mean, somebody could have a history, evidence of successful work, knowledge of Michigan, demonstrated ability to support the aspects, and have an understanding of governance. And still, one of the people could say, and I can't stand them. I mean, they could give them high grades on all this and say, I thought they were horrible. They could have met, so that's why I'm kind of a little bit taken aback by the idea that we could end up with a decision without us actually, that only one got above 20, because what I'm hearing is that the one that might get selected, Ray and Associates, nobody's going to say that they were horrible at the last one, but I think that they could be selected and somebody say that. So I just wanted to make sure those who are here, I'd like to also hear if you thought it was really not a very good process. So.
Okay, so I have next Cassandra and Dr. Z. Michelle.
So to answer your question, I thought that they did a fine job. I have no complaints about what Ray and Associates did last time. They were, basically, I had two that I ranked as probably the highest. And then McPherson, I'm with you, I gave them low points just because I feel like they didn't answer the Michigan question. So I couldn't give them points for that. They had like a one-line statement saying, we understand what the rules and laws of Michigan are. Well, that's that. But I'm curious, though, why Hazard Young received such a low score. And if anyone wants to kind of speak about why they graded them so low, because I actually thought that they had a pretty sound proposal. And so I'm kind of surprised that they didn't get above that 20 threshold.
So do we want to pause for a minute before I go on to Dr. Z and Michelle and talk about Cassandra's question and have a discussion?
Sure.
Okay. So Cassandra posed a question about the scoring of Hazard Young
Yeah,
and Adia. And Tom, you want to respond to that?
I agree with her. I mean, I thought that there was, they had quite a extensive knowledge of Michigan. I think they had more verbiage about kind of at least their perception of the situation. Trying to look for the page 18. Page 18. Now, some may disagree with it, but nonetheless, they went into extensive discussion about that. And so, yeah, I mean, I know that they've worked with many. I think they're currently working with Birmingham. I talked to somebody that was, and they have on page 19 and 20. There's all kind of local districts that they've worked with on some projects, but although in the end, I'm not sure if elevating them just so that we go choose at Ray and it's going to make that much difference anyway.
I too, they got my second highest score overall, 21. Others marked them lower in understanding the educational context, governance, and structure. But I don't know. I guess I'm with Cassandra and Tom. I'm not sure why others ranked them lower.
Well, I gave them better scores on demonstrated knowledge of Michigan, but a history of successful state superintendent, I didn't, unless I missed it, I don't see they have a history of successful state superintendent.
This is what I noticed about all the different, this is why I said something about experience, okay? And it being the highest points that we can give each particular firm. Some of them not only gave references, but they had the vendor question sheet, and then they also had a placement sheet. So there was one that had all three, there was one that had 2 out of 3, and then there was one that just did vendor. I'm not even including NASB in the suggestion because we rated them the lowest, but and Hazard and Young was the one that just kind of did the vendor worksheet, if I'm correct. So they did have a significantly different presentation of experience, if I'm remembering.
Yeah, I do see on page 12 that they do have. So perhaps I should raise your score on the first one. But I don't think it makes much of a difference. I'm not sure where the evidence of client satisfaction.
So anyone else want to comment on Cassandra's question? And Michelle, are you considering changing your score?
Yeah, I could raise it from a.
I'm sorry, I missed Cassandra's question.
I was just curious why Hazard and Young scored so low when I was saying I thought they had a pretty sound proposal. And so I was throwing it out there why they seem to not hit that 20 mark. There seem to be very wide variations on scoring for them.
Right.
So I can tell you why I scored them the way I did. It was based on, in part, they're here actively in the state, and they do have good knowledge of the districts, of several of the districts in the state. I would say it's summed up by, on page 11, in the past 5 years, Hazard Young and Atia has placed superintendents in 18 districts with an enrollment over 25,000 students. So they are profoundly wonderful at district soup searches, because it includes LA, big cities, and I give them high marks for that. 2 of the 3 associates who will serve on the search were superintendents of public instruction, and the third one was a district superintendent in East Grand Rapids, Michigan. That is not the same as having a repeat success rate. In other words, they're very good at what they do well, which is 1 tier down from what we're doing. And again, what you're looking for in the fiduciary role that we play is success at our level, so that you know that there will be connections to be that can be made for the candidates. It's hard, very difficult for people to leave a job as a district superintendent. We had Brian, who had a ton of state experience as a lobbyist and had superintendent's experience too. Tom Watkins, who did not have that kind of depth of experience in education jobs, the job Mike Flanagan had. So you get different candidates, but the reality is that a district superintendent position is extremely complicated, and you want to have people who are sussing out the candidates, knowing what they're going to face if they come from a district level. And Sheila, you can attest to this, the difference in having to deal with the whole state versus one aspect of the state is substantial. There's a learning curve here that always happens.
I'm still on my learning curve, Eileen. Thank you very much. But yes, you're absolutely correct.
Right.
It is a large learning curve.
And that's an intangible that I have lived through 3 different times on this board. So I know what it. If you don't know if you don't understand the whole state or aren't a fast learner for it or weren't recruited to do that for administration, it's easy to get out of compliance on federal grants, for example, which Michigan has been in times past. The person walking into this job is inheriting us being in USDOE intervention for special education, 29% dropout rate compared to 18% nationally. We're the only state in that situation, along with the Marshall Islands, Palau, and Washington, D.C. That's one parameter. We have MSTEP scores that we need to see higher. We have NAEP scores that tell us information that is very hard to accept. We have a ton of children at risk who aren't learning as well, but we also have a fairly high level, average level of money going in and extremely low output for student achievement. So the person who walks into this has to be selected for their capacity to understand that and act on it. What you don't want to do is to take someone who's good at placing superintendents in districts where the complexity is not as difficult and not necessarily know the parameters of and given a choice between someone who's done it over and over again and someone who has not yet reached the level of being able to place state soup successfully, to me, it has nothing to do with the quality of the other firms. It has to do with their specialty, at which they're very good, not matching the specialty in which we need someone superb.
May I ask a professional question of you and anyone else that may have some perspective, but how comparable is an ISD superintendent's responsibilities to district on the one hand or state on the other? How relevant or and how do we select superintendents for our ISDs?
So the answer to your last question is how do we place superintendents for ISDs? It's that the ISD board, each ISD has a board of education. They are charged with hiring their superintendent for their ISD.
Do they go through a search process like we in the districts do?
Yes, they do, as well as districts go through a search process. Many districts will hire a search firm to go through the search process to help them hire a local local superintendent. And many ISDs will use the same process of using an external search firm to help them hire their superintendent.
And maybe I missed it in looking at these proposals, but I did not see any, or I didn't see many ISD placements very prominent in the records of these proposals, or did I miss something?
Well, in Michigan, we have ISDs, but that's not always the case in other states. So each state is individual. There are states that don't have ISDs. So there is a state-run, the education agency, state education agency runs the entire state.
Okay, okay.
Was it someone else had a question, comment?
I had raised my hand, but I'm good.
And then, Michelle, do you still have a question or a comment?
I was just gonna say I would raise I see it's one state, the Baltimore or Maryland was a state superintendent search, and that they, who is this? McGee and Castro are both former state superintendents. So they would have a depth of knowledge about at least those states. Illinois, I think, is comparable to, and maybe even Missouri is comparable to Michigan. Dr. Morse would be the lead, not one of the state soups. I don't know. I would feel comfortable raising it to a 5, but I don't for the first one. But I don't,
What is yours at? Right.
for Hazard Young,
And you're saying for the first,
for the first category of
Okay.
successful executive, I gave him a 3. And I didn't give him, because I saw to me, it was mostly lower level districts. So, but there is a state there, and they do have some experience with this state superintendent. So I would raise it to a 5 from a 3. But I don't think it makes much difference.
Would you like to officially change it?
Yes, officially change the rank for hazard under the first category to a 5.
I can just comment again on state superintendent searches. So in Michigan, the State Board of Education hires the state superintendent. In other states, it is an elected position. So commissioners of education agencies will run for office, and they're elected by their state. And then in some states, the state superintendent is appointed by the governor. So it's not all 50 states that have their Board of Education, state board, that are hiring their superintendent.
And could I?
Yes,
too?
Michelle.
So a couple of things. One, we used to elect our state superintendent before the Constitutional Convention of '63, and Romney, who insisted that we not, and that it be the board that do it, because there was concern that the elected state superintendent previous to the convention was doing things that he wasn't responsive at all to the board. And that was, at least that's my understanding from some research I had done, and that they wanted to have more connections to, grassroots or to people who are elected to select. Just an aside, that was changed. It used to be that way here. And as far as Ray and Associates, I thought they were good. The only criticism I had is we had to push on them because they wanted to screen the top candidates and not necessarily show us all of the candidates, and we insisted that we get the packets. They could tell us their recommendations, but we wanted to see all of the people who applied. We wanted all of them.
Correct.
And to consider, we would consider the recommendations, but we wouldn't allow them to eliminate without us looking at them first. That was my, and they did when we asked for that. They weren't resistant. They just had initially proposed that they would screen and only give us like the top, 10 or something.
And since you are hiring the firm, you can set those parameters with the firm.
I think some of that's
Yes, Tom.
Some of that's Open Meetings Act, I
Yeah.
think, or even And also, some people submit it not wanting the public to know because they're currently,
All but one did that.
okay.
And so what we had told them is, we want to see every candidate, but we could do that in an executive session, except for the one who didn't request it. Then we had to go into an open session. Does anyone have any comments about this candidate? And then go back into executive session.
Okay, thank you.
There's no question that because we are subject to OMA, that hiring a superintendent is one of the most complicated things we could possibly do. We're the only board, all the other three statewide elected boards aren't covered, they're not state entities. So they can go into closed session and do whatever they need to do. And it's a parliamentarian's delight.
Sandra?
So I'm just going to ask again, I know that we're not we only have one company that's above the 20, but can you give us a nice sense of where they fall in as far as dollar-wise? Are they the top, are they the bottom, or?
I can hand out pricing. Is there anybody else that wants to update their score or modify it at this time?
And Cassandra, if you could give me your thoughts again as it relates to their history around,
For Hazard?
the first one, and knowledge of Michigan. You gave me a little bit. I guess I gave them.
The McPherson was the one I gave low points for the knowledge of Michigan. Hazard actually probably put more information in there than we would ever expect them to do. So I gave them very high marks for that.
I did too.
But the history, they do have one state superintendent search that they did. Was that Maryland?
Yeah, Maryland.
And so, I think it was a good point. Not every state does state superintendent searches. So the fact that they also put in here that they have a lot of experience hiring superintendents in very large districts, I thought was also a good point for them to make.
I gave them a 6. I guess I could go up to a 7.
For which section? For
The first one, the one on Michigan, I gave
from
them
a
the
6
highest.
to a
yeah.
7?
For Hazard or for McPherson?
Hazard.
I don't want to modify it, but I wanted to make sure, I thought you had said, sir, I don't know, I forget your names, but that you could not give us the pricing for anybody under 20, or you don't do it in the meetings, so I don't know that.
Basically, what it is once we get, if we give you pricing, you cannot award nor change your price to any, or you cannot change anyone's score.
Oh, okay.
So you can see, we'll sometimes look at it for what we consider
I
market
see.
research purposes
Okay.
to make sure the company we're selecting is
So we can wait
within
till the
fair
end
market
then.
Yeah.
value, right?
Okay.
You can see what they charged other districts on these.
Yeah, I mean, we can.
Yeah, you
It's
get a
not that
little bit of
it's,
a
it's
sense.
put in the fire and you
I
can
just want to
never
make sure
see
that it was
It's
clear that
just
we
kinda-
couldn't change our numbers before, after you give that out.
We're supposed to look at this, make sure that they can actually do the work by passing with 80%
Okay.
or higher, and then being able to choose from the pool that passes with 80%.
Once the pool has been set, we can't go back, is basically what we're trying to say.
You can see for Hazard, I think it was close to 60,000 plus
previous.
expenses which is about half, or double what Ray and Associates charge.
Yeah, that's the other thing is the expenses can add, some of them have a
they're
low
flying
dollar
in.
amount, but then they throw on tons of expenses at the back end. So sometimes it's not comparing apples to apples.
Yes, Eileen?
But we know that, so we can, as you go through this process, the thing to do is to specify. That's what we found too. with
I'm sorry, the thing to do is what?
The thing to do is to specify that those are covered either in the initial contract or that they're not. So, because we've just had the experience of, it's not so long ago, 3 years ago, and I think that you and Richard were the ones, you and John,
John.
picked your way through.
Yeah, it wasn't me. It was
Okay.
John.
It was John. So
everything.
then what needs to be done at this stage, once you decide who the vendor's going to be, is to specify whether they're included, the services are included in the original contract or not. So,
But just to highlight, those services include things like advertising. So, right, so if they're highly inflating the cost of advertising, that can have a huge impact. I agree with you, you can stipulate that, but there are ways for these companies, especially if they know they're the only one that's reached that bar, it's possible. So we just need to be able to make sure we know exactly what it is we're paying for.
exactly, and specifying that and saying this is all included or not. And I don't have a problem with, I have a problem if, okay, be careful about how I say this. We need to choose the firm that's right for the state of Michigan. And price should be an issue because we shouldn't be overcharged. The question is how to structure the contract so we can't be overcharged later on for extras that we didn't anticipate. That's why seeing what the bids are at some point for what they included and what they didn't include gives us the verbiage to say back to the firm we select, these things have to be included. They can't be add-ons later. Do you help with that? Do you help with
I'll be doing, once we select the vendor, I'll be negotiating with that contractor to make sure if there's anything above and beyond what's included in the proposal, I'll make sure that we get that pricing and included.
Set up the pricing schedule so that you are clear up front what's included and what's not included, as well as Chelsea would draft the contract and with the board's approval execute the contract.
And we have a certain dollar amount we're working within, correct? Like,
We do. We have from the Foundations of Michigan Councils, we have a donation of $25,000 that will go to offset the cost of the search firm. And then I've been in contact with Mike Zimmer from the governor's office, and he has indicated that we have unexpended appropriations in the superintendent's budget. And some of that comes from my position not being filled as the chief deputy superintendent. So there are some funds from that have not been expended that can be used for the search firm. So we have funds available for the search firm, both from donations and from existing budgets.
What if your negotiations go south and, we select one and then they don't agree with some things and it gets pretty rough? Does it come back before us and we debate again, or how does that?
We would go back to the existing pool, so we wouldn't repost. But then, yes, we would come back to the existing pool and we would have a discussion on.
Good. So that, I just want to make sure that firm doesn't think they got it. They can ask for whatever they want.
So an award will not be made until we have an executed. So we negotiate and we come to an agreement on pricing before we make our award recommendation.
Okay.
So they don't know they've won while we are negotiating. I guess in this instance, they know that they will be selected by the board. It's one of the downfalls of the Open Meeting Act, is that we can't hold back that information, but they'll know that there are at least other players at the table that we could fall back to.
Does it come back to us, though, the contract? And for our approval or anything like that?
That would be, I don't know.
I can.
For us, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's MDE was kind of the requester. They would be the one to sign off if they view the state board, approving the execution of the contract before they will sign off on it. That's it's not our process.
But they
at that
will.
point. The MDE would be the yes. They are for us, the business owners, and the ones to sign off.
Okay.
The approval, whether or not they bring.
And
that.
we'd hold them accountable, Sheila
Right.
accountable if she signed something that she thought was,
And there'll be a motion later this morning that will indicate that we are looking to award to the search firm pending the negotiations of the contract.
Perfect.
So I have Lupe and then I have Dr. Z.
has it ever occurred, what the question Tom is asking, has that ever happened before? That the firm, I don't think they would be that
In like
crazy.
any of our contracting experience.
Right.
Yeah. And when we go, I mean, if we talk all contracting experience, we've definitely had situations where we cannot come to terms with a vendor and we have to go to our second choice, or sometimes we'll negotiate with actually two firms at the same time and see which one is going to agree to more or give us a better price down the road. So yes, we do sometimes have to fall back. This would be, honestly, this is the first time that we have done it in an Open Meetings Act format, so it's a little different. So we're kind of learning on the fly as we
We
go.
lose a little leverage.
We lose a little leverage, yes, but not all of it.
Okay, Dr. Z, and then Eileen.
So then, do I understand that our vote and ranking of these automatically, and I suppose it depends on the motion that we adopt later in this meeting, but presumably the one qualifier is negotiated with, if that falls through, then it automatically goes to the person who ends up with the second?
At
Then-
that point, we would open up all of them to pricing, and you would make a best value decision. When you have a situation where
So
no
then,
one,
well, here's my question then. So then if the negotiation falls through with our number one, with the person we adopt here, then it has to come back to the board for more action. That's my only question.
yep, if it
Okay.
falls through, it would come back to the board.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, so I have Eileen, then come to Tom.
Yes, I think we're all circling around the same wagon. We're just coming at it from different directions. And the concern that we weren't looking at the two firms that scored under 20 is really relative, because we have one that has so much success in what we need. But the other two firms that came close to 20, they're only below because they haven't done this before at a level that compares to the highest firm. That doesn't mean that their experience couldn't be stretched to do what we need, but we don't have the track record of success that we need to go for if we can get it. So I don't feel any need to readjust my scores for those two. I just am very aware that we've got two at 18, and that were this to come back, either one of those firms could do this on a stretch. It's just that the stretch might mean two searches. The stretch might mean a pool of people who aren't really where we need them to be. Lengthier, more cumbersome, and sometimes not successful. The National Assessment Governing Board is on its second search to replace their AD who left in August. And they didn't, the search firm that they chose initially did not have the scope. So you just want to make sure that you've gone for the gold if you can. And then, maybe silver could become.
And Tom?
I think that, I appreciate Eileen's comments there as well, and everybody's, by the way. But, my principle was that I wanted us to make the decision and not whoever came up with the matrix to make the decision that's not us. However, I would change I could only go a little bit higher on hazard. I would change it and try to get to that 20. If Ray was, at 21 or 20.2, I would probably push that. I don't know that it's worth it to try to change my numbers to try to get them to 20, and then we're going to spend 50 minutes to get to Ray anyway. So, that being said, I am fine, but I'm glad that we had the further discussion before we actually said now we're done with it, and maybe we're not, but for me, I don't feel like as put off as I was initially, thinking that MDE made this decision by making the matrix and not us. I really do think that now with this discussion, if it doesn't get above 20, that we're the other one's at 24. So I think that they'd win anyway. And to Eileen's point, Ray doesn't feel so comfortable that they can ask for the moon, because we do have a couple that are biting at their heels.
I'm sorry. And if you look at the charges they have, they've consistently had the same, about 30,000 for the searches in the past, so it's not, they have a track record of charging that amount of money.
Right.
Eileen?
My experience is very reasonable. It's often based on a percentage of the first-year salary, which would be higher than this in the for-profit world, or much higher in the for-profit world, and quite a bit higher in the nonprofit world, too.
Are there any other comments or questions before I turn it back over to Jared and Chelsea to share pricing information?
Basically, we would consider it done, and then they could share it. So we would basically say it's awarded to Ray, and then you could share
But
it.
you would say you would say that your scoring has been completed, you're fine with the scores. and
You
then
need a
we'll look at-
motion at that point
I
to
don't
say
need a
that we are
motion.
selecting them, or by default, they're selected, kind of?
Well, you could take a look at the pricing and say this pricing is out of budget, or this is not out of our appropriation, and we cannot award to them based
Oh.
on their budgetary number.
Okay.
You could have that.
Oh, okay.
I don't anticipate that, but that you could. So it's not a done deal
Oh, okay.
until you see the pricing.
Ah,
Do we want to pass this out too at the end?
Let's do this, and then
nobody wants to change the number.
That's why I asked, were there any
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
questions,
Good.
comments, before we share the pricing information?
The new one?
Yeah. Chelsea, do you have a new score on Hazard Young?
19.
You want to review the scores on all of them with us, please?
Sure.
Make sure we all have the correct scores.
Yep. McPherson is 18.375. Ray and Associates is 24.25. NASB is 15.5. At HYA is 19.
Okay, so just to reiterate, this price does not include advertising.
This is for Ray and Associates?
Right, down below, of estimated advertising, $5,000.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, and it says they don't collect a commission, which is odd. I thought they do get a commission.
So then you have to add, as you look at this, you have to add
5,000.
into, they have an estimated per candidate interview expense. And then they have an advertising expense.
2,000 per candidate.
So I have Lupe and then I have Eileen.
What did we say our budget was?
We have a guaranteed of 25,000 from Foundation of Michigan Councils. And then we have unexpended money in the superintendent's budget, easily another 25,000 plus.
Thank you.
So I estimated, in calculating the budget, I estimated $50,000. Yes,
Now, is this budget only for the firm? Or can it be used for other things like our lunches, or that doesn't count into this?
We'll travel for the candidates, I would.
all of the expenses for the search firm would come out of the superintendent's appropriation. The money for the state board meetings comes out of the state board budget. And so this is out of the superintendent's budget.
Does this superintendent's budget search?
For this search firm will come out of the unexpended funds in the
Yes.
superintendent's
Okay.
budget. And there are funds there.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Eileen and then Tom.
A couple of questions. Under travel, the double asterisk, expenses may be less if Department of Education utilizes local consultant or cost-saving meetings. Is cost-saving meeting Skyping? Do we know, or I'm trying to remember when we did the search for Mike Flanagan. We couldn't Skype, we had a Traverse City consultant. But is that, do you know, do you have any sense, it should be you, I guess. Do you have any sense what that means, translates out to?
On the first page, I see
Yes.
cost saving expense options. Ray and Associates is aware of budget concerns. Well, it's not on the first page, it's on the second page, I'm sorry. About almost down to the bottom, right above performance contract, it says
Skype.
the cost saving expense options. Conduct 3 meetings with our consultants via Skype, conference call,
Okay,
or go-to meetings, which could potentially save thousands of dollars in travel expenses.
sorry, yep.
So I'm
Yeah.
just seeing that. Utilize our materials electronically via email or flash drive, and boards may conduct first-round candidate interviews via Skype to reduce candidate travel expenses.
Yeah, I would say, having just gone through some Skype presentations for the Science Center, that they are probably about 70% effective of what an in-person is. You can just read people better. We're not to the candidate stage, that was just for the search firms. But we found that there's still a camaraderie that exists on a face-to-face basis that is not as effective. So I could see it working for the search firm meetings. I think it would be much harder for the candidate interviews. I'm not sure you would capture all the things that you needed. And the other thing about advertising is that the last time when we, I don't know what the budget was, and you would have a record, I'm sure, and Cassandra, I don't know that if you have any sense of how it worked, but in the past, when I've been involved in searches, we're finding that electronic, that not social media per se, but doing these things electronically is much more effective for the affinity groups you're trying to reach than is public advertising. In some ways, doing postings in Edweek and print is a vanity rather than a necessity. 15 years ago, you had no choice. But the timelines are so much more compressed now with social media. What I don't know is what the advertising cost for net reach is, but I know that when I was on the National Assessment Governing Board in 2010, 11, and 12, when we were doing things on the net, it was much more cost effective than placing ads, print ads in professional journals. So the only question I would ask on this is, what is that based on, print? Or is it based on internet advertising? If they can do a breakdown, if they can probably tell us at this point, any of these firms can, where they would be advertising and what it would be. And I think that might be valuable to know, because that will narrow down whether we can say to them, gee, how about doing a little more social media, a little less print?
I can do a clarification to them regarding what is included in their advertising budget, proposed cost.
So Chelsea, if you get that information to us, we will put it then in the board brief, so all the board, and that's our weekly communication to the board.
Okay.
I have next Tom, and then I have Lupe.
Looking at the costs, I mean, they seem reasonable to me, the travel and 30 grand for the base fee. And, if I'm looking at this right, you add advertising is 39, and if it could be potentially 2,000 for expenses, I think that's a little high to get a candidate to come here, put him up in a hotel, him or her. But nonetheless, I mean, we could only do 5, 6, or 7 in person. But I would like to get a little bit harder number on I know that the governor's office may not, I don't know if they'll give you a firm number.
The governor's
but
office isn't giving us any money.
Yeah.
It's coming out of
yours,
our.
But I mean.
So if you needed $60,000 or $70,000, the money is there.
Okay. So, and when you said give the pricing, did you also mean the other ones who didn't get above 20, or just this is the pricing we're going to get?
This is the pricing you will get.
Okay, we're not going to see what the others.
I don't want to do that in the fact that if we were to go, if this would
It comes
fall
back,
through,
right.
right?
Yep.
I
No,
can
makes sense.
tell you that their pricing is competitive.
Okay.
It wasn't the lowest, but it was near the bottom.
Yeah, that's good enough.
It is a good financial fiduciary.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with this.
Lupe?
As we proceed with the money that we're going to spend to look for somebody to run this department, to be the state superintendent, we cannot be counting pennies and dimes, and we're going to have to pay for who can find that person for us, because we're in a critical time in our history in education, and we're gonna have to find the very, very best. And so when we select the firm, we're gonna hold them accountable, but not by, counting every penny, every dime. We're gonna pay for what we need. So we have the money. I'm not saying, throw it in the air and spend it, but we have to be cognizant that this does cost money.
When you're interviewing internal state candidates, the travel expenses will be much less than if you are bringing external candidates from out of state into the state. So there'll be some cost saving in that regard. Michelle?
What are the next steps now that we seem to identified a firm? Will there be other meetings where we're going to come together and, I don't know, review the criteria of what we are asking the search firm to do? Or is this done now and that criteria is firm enough? I'm just curious about next
It's
steps.
spelled out in here. I think it's spelled out in here. They were going to meet with each of us individually.
Okay,
Yeah.
but
At least
we are
somebody.
not going to meet to come to consensus about what we want.
That's the question I have, is their phase one in here talks about developing the description and what do they call it, the candidate profile. I mean, we've already decided on the job description. So are we gonna have to, like that first phase doesn't seem like it's necessary, considering we've already done that work.
So that's a conversation that we can have with, once we negotiate a contract. So once you approve the search firm and we negotiate a contract, then those are the conversations that we can have with the search firm.
So who has those conversations? Like, is someone charged with that, or does MDE do that? Do we have to get together in another special meeting and have these conversations? How does that work?
It also,
Go
sorry.
ahead, I'll go back to DMV.
It also says in their cost breakdown, under their pricing, it says if the board selects only certain elements offered in this package or request services not included in this package, our fees and reimbursed expenses will be adjusted accordingly. So if there's pieces that need to be removed from this, pieces of their scope of work, then let me know and I can clarify that and get a price.
In my memory, I'm
Eileen?
sorry, yeah, my
Eileen
memory
and
of
then
this
Tom.
is that this was their boilerplate from last time, and that we did change it.
Under what process did we do that? Do you
So
remember?
exactly what's being discussed right now, that we
We
would
just
modify.
told DTMB,
Right,
we
we've
don't
done
need
this part
this.
already, and we
Okay.
don't need this. But it does, we did talk to, I'm like thinking back in my mind, how many of those searches did I talk to the search firm? And I do remember that the board, that they did talk to each of us about what we knew had worked and what didn't work before, and the sort of attributes we were looking for, because that helps.
I don't remember.
I do. Well, then maybe if you don't remember it, then it may have been when we hired Mike.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember
That's, yeah.
being so involved in the process last
Because
time.
the person I
at all.
remember talking to was the Mike Flanagan search person.
Oh, okay.
But I thought that I had done the same thing last time. So this should be definitely adjusted, because I don't think we're revisiting the job description.
Right.
And if you don't feel that there's reason to talk to the search firm about the personal things, the one thing that does for them, if you talk to them, is that it gives them a better idea of what you feel is successful about the department now and what you would like to see changed. And that guides them a bit as to whether they're looking for a major change artist or, somebody who's got a tradition. Think of Nikolai Vitti, who has gone through substantial reform measures that have been effective in his district, which made him perfect for the Detroit job. So, as they look at candidates for our position, depending upon what all of you are saying, as to where you believe the department has to head, that will give them a little more information as they're trying to bring good candidates to you.
And if you look on page 10 of the Ray and Associates, they have an estimated timeline of the different stages of the process.
Yeah, so they have in here meetings with constituent and stakeholder group representatives. Which is another thing, I mean, basically you did that when you met with the Ed Alliance.
I met with Ed Alliance and received feedback from them on, if you remember, it was the job description.
Right.
And received feedback from them, and then the job description was modified based on their feedback. So some of the steps in this process we have already accomplished.
When it says contact constituents and stakeholders, I would not presume that the Ed Alliance is our only stakeholder constituent. And I'm not sure that we have a list beyond them because we went as far as we could. But to me, it's not just the other education representative lobbyists. It would be Council of Michigan Foundations, which believes in what we're doing and wants to put money into it.
Yes, and is definitely interested in providing some input as well.
Exactly. And I don't know who else beyond that.
Wait. I think we're talking about two different, contacting them is fine, but it looks to me like they're contacting them specifically to create a job description.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that part is done. But again, it's this nuance of, here, we know it's on paper.
I don't mind if they contact any of these folks.
It's the nuance, there's the paper part, which we have a firm trail on, and we've done that part of the work. And then there's the nuances of what the strengths and difficulties are of this position that would, if they hear that from various stakeholders, would probably say, oh, okay, well, this candidate really could be great, but this one is not going to bring enough depth to it. So, just doesn't have that experience to be able to get through what's going on in Michigan and bring them to a next level of performance for kids. But tailoring this is what the important part is. And I don't know how many other stakeholders there are besides Ed Alliance who should be at least discussed, that this should be discussed with. I don't know who else the major education funders are who support districts and who are worried about, there's Marty. This is where I call on Marty, and Marty looks at me like, what are you calling on me for? Is there a list any place in the department, or is it just sort of in people's minds as to who steps forward to try to help the department over the last 10 years besides Council of Michigan Foundations? Well, in the sense that they're watching initiatives happen, and sometimes they provide funding for districts to do things, or they provided funding for, you look at multi-tiered systems of support or other initiatives that the department has underway for Top 10 and 10. Are there funders who are helping with that on a statewide or a regional basis who are watching what we're doing and would have some valuable comments to make? That's the one group of people, the unions, for example. Anybody who's involved in what we're trying to do, I would think that there would be some reason to talk to them. It's just that we've already talked to Ed Alliance.
And I was thinking, as I was sitting here, I was thinking the Michigan PTSA would be a constituent group that
I would also
would have some value in giving some input. So
sorry.
I have on my list
Okay.
Tom, and then I have Michelle.
Okay.
So I hear you, Cassandra, but I certainly want them to interview the board members. And it might be to change a little bit about the job description. Or like Eileen said, there's some discussions with some of the constituents, and they happen to know through their expertise that, oh, this means that we probably need to include this in the job description because of their experience. I would imagine they may want to change it a little bit, although I don't know if it comes back before us. I don't think they can change a job description without us agreeing to it.
Right.
So I'm not sure about how that would work, but at least for them to say, okay, this makes sense. Just based on their experience, to make sure that it does. Not that, I'm sure you guys did a great job. I just want to, I wouldn't mind a second. But I do think that the board might say that this is a constituent that I think is important for you to talk to. Maybe not in deciding the job description, but like Eileen said, the nuances of who to, or how to convey to candidates, you are a little bit unusual, but this is kind of the direction that we're hearing Michigan or the board and some constituents want. So that's why I think you should be considered, or you should go ahead and apply. I mean, when they have those conversations, I think it will help them. So I don't really want them, I mean, this is probably our most important job, so I do want them to talk to us, I think. I don't know if, I guess it doesn't have to be in person, but I think they're gonna be here for the next board meeting, and if they wanted to schedule 20 minutes for us to go and talk in a conference room after the board meeting, or, I don't know, or the next day or something, and I think
4 and 4.
yeah, that would be fine as well.
Yeah, I'm, again, not opposed to them talking to anybody. That's their job. That's what we're hiring them for. But if you start allowing organizations to micromanage and wordsmith your, you've just added 2 months minimum to the process.
Yes.
Because it has to come back to the
That's a
board.
concern I
We
had.
have to agree to it. So I would just caution that, the more you do that, the longer this process comes.
And just a reminder that on September 11th at the board meeting, the board did approve the job description for the state superintendent. So now I have Michelle, and then I have Eileen.
So under stage 4, it says that they will give us the top candidates will be presented. So that was kind of what we pushed back on last time, that we didn't want just who they decided were the top candidates. We wanted their recommendations, but not necessarily filtering out, we wanted to see. So that, I think that's would need to be adjusted. Also, when it talks about constituencies, I think of, our rankings or what we're dealing with special education too, and certainly I'll mention that when they talk to me. We want somebody who really has knowledge and experience, at least I do, I mean, I'm just speak for myself, to take on those issues. And then, of course, we have high concentrations of poverty in certain areas of our state, and someone who has a variety of experiences and particularly high poverty. So I'm not sure if that should be talking to constituents or just us voicing those concerns, but I think there are a couple of red flag issues that need to be focused on that make our state unique.
Eileen, then Tom?
As we again try to approach this from different angles, I would say that the board does need to define the constituent stakeholder list, okay? And we need to do that fast, because I'm looking down there at Sheila and she's shifted, so we need to do it quickly because of the timeline. And I don't know, I mean, for me, it's the unions, for me, it's CMF. For me, it's Kellogg, who just put $50 million, Kresge, that just put $50 million into the P20 initiative, just to see how that fits with what we're doing with everything else. It's anybody else who's involved in top 10 and 10. And we may not want it to be more than 8 people or 8 groups or 5 groups. So we need to sort of have a list of people that could contribute to the conversation that's gone on already and may not have been listened to well. Let me just make one more point. Those conversations may not change the job description at all, but it may change their understanding of who we're really looking for to do what the state needs to have done. And the timeline that they've got here, they have us approving the job description again on 12/4. They thought that they were going to develop entirely, given that we're already there and we're just looking for additional input. This timeline would shift if we were saying to them, we've got the job description, go, because we're a month earlier than what's on here. So if we're comfortable with this time span on the hiring process, and I guess that's the other question, because I didn't really spend as much time on this because I wasn't going to be here. I'm not going to be here for it. But the other question is, if this time span works for the board, then I think we've got the time built in to have those conversations, as long as they're not going to add $1 billion to the budget. I would say let's develop the list of entities right now, get some thoughts out there and have the department think about it a little bit more and approve something pretty quickly. Yes, I'm sorry, Cassandra, that was an awful long wait.
No. I would just add to your list. I think the deputy superintendents would be good for them to have a conversation.
Oh, yeah, it's internal. I mean, that's what you're looking at is internal, external educators, which we've already done with the Ed Alliance to some degree. Funders, because they're involved in supporting what we do. And anybody else that we touch with Top 10 and 10 to see what of those people would be important to talk to. It may be that not very many are. It may be that you can talk to one or two and get the answers from most of the people who would be. For example, the partnership districts, are there any that are doing a good job right now and should be heard for the, obviously there are, should be heard for the things that they're reaching toward that the department may or may not be able to do or support.
Okay, I have a running list. I have Tom, I have Nikki, I have Pam, and I have Cassandra.
I would just say that you had mentioned maybe 4 and 4 as far as a meeting with us. I think they said individual, and I think it should be individual. I think whether it's before a meeting or right after, or if they have to stay a day and interview us, but I think it really should be individual. And I also think we're going to have at least one new board member. I think after next week, I think that they should at least, they should be interviewing those people. I guess they could interview if any outgoing, but I think that they should make sure they interview them.
Is it me? Oh.
Nikki,
So
then
Oh,
Pam, and then Cassandra.
Okay.
I was going to echo Eileen, just because it was the one thing I circled on every timeline from each firm was the idea of what will it look like to engage the stakeholders in the process outside of the job application. So just to be elected by the state of Michigan and then to go through the process and then engage all of the stakeholders, I think is a really important part, even if it takes longer. So if we're having that conversation, are we having that conversation today, defining the stakeholders, making a list? Is that what we're doing?
I have a running list.
Okay. So how would we do that above and beyond having created the job description, and how would that play out? Like, would we have more conversations with them throughout the process?
With the search firm?
To the next board meeting, right?
So we would like to, if we are able to negotiate a contract and sign the contract, we would like to invite them then to the November 13th board meeting. I would like to suggest that we ask them to modify the timeline and bring a modified timeline and to discuss the modified timeline with them. I would like to be able to allow as much time that we need to make this as comprehensive a process in order to select the best candidate and make sure that we're allowing ample time for all the different stages. Because we have anticipated that we would be making the decision sometime in the spring of the year. And so I'd like to be able for us to allow the time that we need to do the hiring process well. So that would be a suggestion that I would like to offer up. And if board members are okay with that, once we have a contract, that's the proposal that we would like to make to them.
So we will essentially have a monthly board meeting where the stakeholders will present, and we'll have a thorough.
It won't be that the stakeholders will present, it's that the search firm will be present, and it will be a standing
Discuss
item.
their
Standing item will be on the agenda, where they will be able to converse with us about where they are in the process.
But they can always do public comment if people wanted to come in.
Of course, yes, yep.
So they can do public comment? Who?
Any group.
Any
Okay,
group
yeah,
can
anybody
come
wants
and
to
offer
come in.
public comment. Okay, Pam, I think I have you next, and then Cassandra.
And this is just backing up what everyone said. And to Eileen's point, I was going to mention the partnership districts, and not just the ones that are doing well, but just the partnership districts, those who have been struggling for so long and being a part, having their voice be heard. And then the other part was around the advertising. And so I just really, I would want to know where they're going to advertise, because I know around here, we don't always get to everyone. So I would really want to make sure that we have a good, diverse opportunity for a diverse mix of candidates. I know we have historically Black universities, and they have great networks. And so I would really like to make sure that we have this opportunity for diversity as we move forward. So I would really want to see how the advertising is going to be done and who will be the targets or what will be the target groups. One other thing I will also add is that when we do have candidates, and this has happened in other communities, I know probably in your community as well as mine, but there are opportunities for groups to come in and help candidates to feel comfortable in the environment. That has especially been if you get someone of a diverse background and making sure that they feel that they fit within a culture. So thinking of those things as well. And that's, we may get someone who's from outside. Thoughts there.
Thank you, Pam. Then Cassandra and Nikki.
You kind of mentioned what I was going to mention, which was the timeline. They have a very truncated timeline here, and one of the concerns I have is they advertise the position December 5th, and then they have the deadline for materials January 8th. So that's a little over a month, and in that time period is a major holiday, and when people are not paying attention to this kind of stuff. So maybe thinking about perhaps extending that a little bit so that we get a larger candidate pool. So that would be along the lines of what you said about extending this timeline a little bit.
Nikki, and then I'll come back to Tom.
I should say, I'm sorry, some major holidays, not just one.
Holidays. I caught holidays.
Yes.
Yes.
Nikki?
Just to piggyback onto what Pam was talking about with diversity, McPherson had a very good profile when it came to applicant diversity. They actually put a few pages in highlighting their several years' worth of searching for diverse candidates. And then I know that one of our other, let's see, where is it? Hazard had like an a la carte option, so I don't know what, since we've chosen Ray, just as an after the fact conversation of applicant diversity, what if they have some kind of process that they put in play for that? Because the two other firms did advertise that up front.
So would you like us, when they come on, if they sign the contract and they come on the 13th, to be able to give more information to the board as to what their plan is to ensure that a diversity of candidates is being promoted?
Yeah, that are being engaged.
Yeah.
And then how are you making
Promotions are going to them, they're reaching out to them.
Making sure that they provide some opportunities that show that there's a culture that would support diversity as well.
Yeah, it was in the foundation of these other two, so I'm sure that it's in their foundation, they just didn't choose to advertise it. I don't know.
Are you sure that they don't have anything?
I looked through it, they don't have the same presentation of applicant diversity or candidate diversity that the other two do.
We want to look at what they're doing to attract diversity in candidates. Is that what I hear you say?
Show the culture, is supportive of diversity. Because you might reach them, but they could get here and they may not see that they fit. So you also have to show that there's a support for diversity as well.
Back to Tom.
I think when we're talking about constituencies and who this organization should contact. I don't want to kind of get into the situation where they didn't contact my important constituency, they did contact yours and all that. So to some degree, I think we as the board, that's kind of why I want them to make sure they interview us individually as well, is that we each know kind of our constituent, we represent everybody, but there are certain constituencies that we may, that help, that we may feel affinity to or feel that their issues, we really can understand them. Mine might people who are anti-Common Core or the concerned about privacy issues, some of those kind of folks. And if I can't articulate, I should be able to articulate their concerns to them and say, this is important, and, it's just for me individually. If I can't articulate, I might say, you might want to give them a call. I can't, I think this is it. But, I just can imagine it getting a little unwieldy if they're going to be, everybody wants to give them 10 groups and all of a sudden they're calling 80 different groups. So I think to some degree we understand a good portion of some of their concerns. I don't want to exclude anybody. I don't want them, I'm not saying nobody should be heard or that somebody shouldn't, but I could imagine it becoming either unwieldy or you didn't contact my constituency that I care about kind of stuff. So that's why I kind of think them talking to us individually as a board member, we hopefully understand some of the concerns out there on the ground and in some of these groups. That's all. I don't think I'll say anything more.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, are we ready to, for me to make a motion and have the board vote on a motion?
You call the
Suggest it,
motion.
okay.
You cannot make
All right, so I just want to make sure that I wasn't cutting anyone off who still had comments or questions that they wanted to make. Okay, seeing no other comments or questions, then may I please have a motion to approve Ray and Associates, Inc. as the search firm to assist the State Board of Education in the recruitment of Michigan's.
Wait, but it has to be get into negotiate.
Yes, I'm
Right,
getting to that.
yeah.
Yes. In the recruitment of Michigan Superintendent of Public Instruction pending negotiation of final details of the contract.
If that's finished, so move.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion approved and seconded. Is there any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone, for the very thoughtful and detailed review and also discussion, very thorough discussion. Greatly appreciate it. I thought it was an excellent conversation among board members. So Marilyn, are there any individuals who would wish to address the board?
I do not have any forms. Are there any individuals with forms who want to address the board? So I believe no, there is no one that wants to address the board.
Okay, so we have our future meeting, Tuesday, November 13th, 2018, 9:30 is a regular meeting here in the Hannah Building. Next meeting is Tuesday, December 11th, 2018. That is a regular meeting, again, here in the Hannah Building. And moving on to the first of the year, Tuesday, January 8th, 2019, at 9:30, a regular meeting here in the Hannah Building. Seeing nothing else on the agenda, we are adjourned.